Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hey everybody, long time no see. It's Justin Mirigliani here on the Talking Head Show on USA Global TV and radio. And today the Talking Head Show that I'm going to do is going to be about building a team. So I'm going to jump right into it. Let me just share the screen here for a second. And have a little PowerPoint presentation. Now you have to remember that this is not something that can be done in a half an hour, but I'm going to give you a taste of it. This is a 4-hour course, actually. So I do this over a 4-hour period. Usually most companies have me come in around maybe 9, 10 o'clock and then go for 4 hours, and then we take it from there. So leading productive teams is what this is all about. And the first thing is, what is a team? I really don't like to read a lot to people. When I teach people how to create presentations, I tell them most often you don't want paragraphs. You just want blurbs, and it's your job as a presenter to present the data to people. In this case, though, I want to read this to you because I think it's important to get the whole definition. So team is defined as a group of people who perform interdependent tasks to work towards accomplishing a common mission or a specific objective. You want to be pulling in the same direction. If you have people on a team who are not pulling in the same direction, if they have cross purposes, then of course it's going to be much harder to run that team and get that project done. So I think it's important to remember what a team is. A team is not just a group of people. I mean, we're talking about a group of people, yeah, but they're performing interdependent tasks. So tasks that actually affect each other. And one of the programs that I use to teach project management is Microsoft Project, where we build a project using a Gantt chart. In the Gantt chart, we have tasks that are linked to each other, different types of relationships. In fact, I did do a Talking Heads class, Talking Heads show rather, on project management with Microsoft Project. So interdependent tasks, getting people to work together, accomplishing the same thing. Most often when you have a team that you're building, you probably want to have either a mission statement, or if it's a project charter. And in the project charter, it's really why we're doing this project. What's the reason for it? Is it to build a computer? Is it to mass produce a vehicle? Is it to create a new training? Is it to create a new book, a manual, whatever it might be? You want to be working together as a group. Now, the team leader, and for a lot of people watching right now, you're team leaders. That's the person who provides the guidance, right? You're the person guiding everybody. You're the person who's in the lead, right? You're walking them down the path that they need to go to. So you providing guidance, instructions, clear instructions, direction, and leadership to the group. And that's how you are able to achieve these results. You align the people, you keep people aligned together. It's very easy for a team to start to fray at some points. People have different personalities that may not always mesh with other personalities. Some people want to do certain jobs that perhaps they're not the best qualified to do, and you have to decide who those people are and where they're best utilized. You don't want the person who is an Excel whiz to be creating the PowerPoint presentations if they're not a PowerPoint whiz, right? You want the person who's a PowerPoint expert to be doing the PowerPoint presentation. You want the Excel expert to be working on the Excel files. It's no different than if it's building a house. You want an electrician to do the electrical work. You don't ask the plumber to do it, right? So that's you as a team leader, making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to do and are in jobs that best meet their skills. A couple of things, a couple of points really to talk about leadership. This is from Gallup. So, leadership style of the individual managers account for up to 70% in difference in employee motivation and productivity. So, to break that down, the motivation and productivity of your group, 70% of that is based on how good you are as a leader. How do you get those people to do their job? The research says, and I talked to Al Cini about this. Al's on our program a lot and on our station a lot. And the average person works about 3 hours a day. Now they're at the office for 8 usually, but out of those 8, they really only work 3. That's not good. That is really something that we have to work on. And I'm that's in the U.S., but my assumption is that that's probably the same around the globe. Maybe not. I mean, as I'm thinking about it, perhaps in Europe, different styles of work. Of course, I know in Italy at least, they work in the morning and then they take a long break during the middle of the day, go back to work and work into the evening, and then take off, at 7, 8 o'clock at night and go home. So I wonder if there would ever be a way that a company would decide to try that and see if that would work, and if that would be a better way to do things where people have some time during the day to actually enjoy the day and eat lunch with family. Lunch is the biggest meal of the day in Italy instead of dinner, but we have a tendency to um, really kind of make the workday very chaotic and hectic. And even with all that said, we're only working 3 hours out of 8. So being in the building and working are two distinctly different things. I mean, think about it. When you go to the gym, if you could walk into the building and you could either jump on the benches and lift weights, or you could jump on the treadmill, or you could do whatever you want on the equipment, or you could sit down and have a latte. I mean, if you're in the gym 2 hours, there's the person who's sitting and having a latte for 2 hours, and the person who's sitting or actually working on the equipment. That's two different things. Those 2 hours are not equal. 71% of employees believe that their leaders do not spend enough time communicating goals and plans. That's a large percentage. That's almost three quarters. And that's a problem. As leaders, we have to communicate much better. What are the goals, what are the plans? People have to know where they're going, where they're headed. They can't just be left out there and say, well, you this is your job, just do it. They have to be trained, they have to be taught, they have to be there has to be something that they're trying to achieve. I worked at a company out of college, and one of the things that they had was the scale, from 1 to 5. So 1 being you were not getting your work done. 2 was you're still under par. 3 was about average, and then 4 and 5 would be 5 you're very successful. But one of the things they told us was it was impossible to get a 5, and I never could understand that philosophy. Why would you give somebody a goal and then tell them they can't achieve it? It's impossible. So you could get a 4. But that was very difficult. Most people were in the 3 to 3.5 range. Nobody could get a 5. It was impossible to get a 5. Well, then the scale wasn't 1 to 5. It was 1 to 4. If you can't get to 5, then it's really not 1 to 5. It's 1 to 4. So we have to, when we're giving people goals, we have to give them achievable goals. We can't give them goals that are impossible to get to. It's like holding a rope with a carrot in front of the horse, and the horse is running and running and running, but can never get to the carrot. I mean, what's the point of that? So I think it's important for us not only to communicate what the goals and the plans are, but also actually make them achievable goals and plans. 83% of managers are confident that they give employees a voice within their business. So that's a lot of managers. 83%. They say, yeah, I let my employees be heard. I let them voice their opinions. I let them voice their concerns. Well, do the employees feel the same way? 54% of them don't. They say they don't feel heard. When employees don't feel heard, their passion for the job is going to wane. And when that happens, when they don't feel like they're a part of something bigger, they don't feel like they're part of a group, and aren't passionate about their job, the likelihood is you're going to get 3 hours a day. You're not going to get 8 hours a day. Those are the folks that are not really putting in the effort that you would want them to put in. Or, yeah, maybe they do give you 6, 7 out of the 8 hours, but they might be the folks who don't last really long. They might be looking for a job somewhere else where they do feel heard, or where they perceive that they will feel heard. It's very expensive turnover. You'd be surprised how much it costs companies in turnover. I know a, a family member who's in HR and works at a company where turnover is pretty high, and the cost of turnover per year is, and this is a medium-sized company, about $1.2 million. Do you really want to spend $1.2 million a year in having to retrain people, or actually train new people, hire people, all of what goes into turnover? That's a lot of money for a small business, or I should say a medium business. So even larger businesses, it's even more than that. I've worked for companies where turnover in some departments is 100%, meaning that somebody gets hired within a year, they're gone. That's the average. So you might have somebody who joins that company and stays for 3 years, and you might have somebody who joins the company and stays for 3 weeks. But on average, in some organizations, the turnover is about 100%. That's extremely expensive, and it weakens business tremendously. So, as managers, we have to ask ourselves honestly, do we really give our employees a voice? 83% is a lot of managers, and even if we perceive that we give our employees a voice, if they don't perceive that, that's the most important thing. Then it really doesn't matter what we believe. It only matters how they feel. So we have to do better. And if we don't, then we are asking for trouble. We're asking for more turnover and less effort from our people. Here's another one. 91% of employees think their managers are not good communicators. That's virtually all. It's an astonishing number. 91%. I mean, think about that. 91% of employees think their managers are not good communicators. That's a terrible number. That's actually scary, in my opinion. I think that's something that we should really, really be concerned about. But are we? I mean, if you ask managers if they're good communicators, my guess would be most of them would say, yes, I'm a very good communicator. It's not being reflected. And again, it's not what the manager feels. If the manager feels that they're a great communicator, but virtually all of the employees think the opposite, then what good is it to think that I am a good communicator as a manager? If all of the people who work under me disagree, then are they wrong or am I wrong? And odds are I'm wrong. I have to be a better communicator. And what does that look like? Yeah, I think part of the problem with communication is many managers, not all, obviously, not all, but many managers believe that management is being tough and being uh, getting laying down the law and making sure that you're going to do this and you're going to do that, delegating, being so wrapped up in the the idea that being a manager means that you have to be harsh, and that's really not a really good motivator. Fear does motivate people, it's true. It's a good motivator, but it only works for a short amount of time. Fear wears off after a while. So yeah, you might be able to scare people into doing things by yelling, or by chastising, or embarrassing them, or threatening to fire them. There's all these different methods of scaring people, but at the end of the day, they might work for a week, they might work for a month, they might even work for 6 months, but eventually that fear wears off. And what happens is the people simply look for another job. There's no company in the world that is the only game in town, no matter what it is, whatever walk of life it is. I myself left several jobs when I got out of college simply because the management was terrible, and they were not responsive to employees. They tried to be intimidating, which honestly for me doesn't work. I don't like people trying to intimidate me. I don't get intimidated. I actually get angry. It goes the other way. And what did I do? I looked for another job, and I got the other job and left. Well, we talk about the great resignation and people leaving jobs. Well, is it their fault? We kind of look down on people when they jump from job to job and say that they can't stay, and they don't have loyalty. But loyalty goes both ways. My company right now, I really don't have any employees working under me. I do all the work myself. But as I'm growing, I fully intend to start hiring people to be a part of my company. And the way I'm going to manage them is I want them to know that I'm there for them. I want them to know that I'm of service to them. I'm not hiring them so that I can lord over them and make them feel inferior. I'm hiring them because I need them to make my business better. And in turn, I want them to feel good about it. So I think that's something that we really need to look into if we're honest with ourselves as managers and say, are we good communicators? Well, again, believing you are and being a good communicator are two different things. If your employees don't agree, then you're going to have to change your way of communicating. Only 57% of employees have a relationship with their direct manager that makes it easy to go to them with questions or concerns. That's just part of the problem. I would, we could have a false sense of how good we really are as a company if everybody says, "Oh, we're wonderful, we're great," and never ever talk to us about concerns. At the end of all of my classes, I give out evaluations. And no, I don't like it when somebody says, this could be better or that. I'm not happy that it wasn't up to what they hoped it would be, but I take it for what it is. It's information that they're trying to help me with, you know. And I'm the kind of person that if I get 10 evaluations and 9 of them say this was excellent and the greatest training I've ever had, but one of them says, well, I didn't like the music that was used, or Justin's style wasn't exactly what that's the one that I concentrate on. That's the one that I look at and say, okay, well, how would I make myself better? What music could I use instead? Or what methods could I use to be different in my training? So I think we have to admit to ourselves sometimes that we're not perfect and we don't have all the answers. And if we don't allow people to come to us with concerns and with issues that they think need to be better, we're just not going to know. It's very important that we do. So what do team leaders do? They perform necessary tasks. When you have somebody who's a team leader, and I think I've shared this story before, but I'll share it now. I worked in mutual funds when I got out of college, one of the second job that I had out of school, and there was an issue, a computer issue that caused us to have to work on the accounts. There were certain accounts that weren't paid correctly, and we had to really fix a lot of different things. And there was a deadline; we had to get it done by 8 o'clock at night or whatever it was. And the managers are yelling at us and telling us, "Hurry up! You got to get this done!" And they're on top of us, and we're working like crazy, sleeves rolled up, we're sweating, we're trying to get it done. And one of the managers is sitting there barking out orders, but sitting there eating an apple and drinking coffee. Now, that's really not leadership. That's somebody who's so enthralled with delegating work that they forget that they have to perform tasks too. If I'm a real leader, I roll up my sleeves with the staff and I jump in and I get the work done too. So performing those tasks is important. You have to do it too. Now, does that mean I do every task? No, not necessarily. If I hired somebody to be an administrative assistant and I had some data entry, I would delegate that. I would delegate that because that's what I hired that person to do. Um, so there's nothing wrong with delegation, but delegate when it's appropriate. If it's something that you need to do it. Don't delegate everything. And of course, don't do everything if there's somebody else who could take control of it. Monitoring and controlling. So getting things done, but getting them done right is important as a team leader. Yeah, we want to get things done. If I have a project, there's a certain amount of tasks that need to get done in a certain amount of time. That's sure. That's quantitative. But they got to be done right. It does me no good if I'm in an automotive company and we have bad brakes because we took shortcuts in monitoring the brakes or inspecting the brakes to make sure the brakes were good on the vehicle. That's a problem. So yeah, you want to get a lot done, sure, but you also have to make sure that the quality is there. The brakes have to work, or if we put that car on the road, obviously a lot of bad things are going to happen with the car that has bad brakes. So monitoring and controlling is part of team leadership. Motivate through knowledge and skill. So you do things, model what's supposed to happen. You have the skills. I really don't understand when a manager doesn't know what the people under them are doing. I don't get that. I don't get that. If I hire people to train for me, if I hire a consultant to do some training for me that I can't cover, maybe I'm already training somewhere else. Um, I know what they go through. I know what they're supposed to do. I know what the training is. I know what the skill is. So I want them to know how I need to know how they do it too. I need to understand their knowledge and their skill. So if I brought somebody on, I would train them on how to train, how to go to a group of people and teach certain things, how to teach maybe Excel pivot tables or how to teach a PowerPoint class or whatever it is. And their performance um, it should be based on me saying to them, now that you have these skills and this knowledge, I want you to go ahead and do it. I'm not going to sit on their desk and watch them. I'm not going to, micromanage everything. I want to motivate them and say, hey, now you have the skills. Now you have the knowledge. Go ahead and do it. I trust you now. I know that you know it. It's important. Reporting on progress. How are we doing? Let people know that you're interested in how things are going. Don't wait until the end of the project and say, "Oh my goodness, we're late and we're behind schedule." If you allow people to report on their progress, then you know what's going on. And you can say, "Hey, this is just great. You've done a wonderful job. I'm really excited about what you've done. You're on time. You're on budget. This is wonderful." That's important for people to hear. We're as managers, we're so much more likely today to look at the bad things that we only talk to the people, our subordinates, when there's something that needs to be corrected. You didn't do this right. You didn't do that right. This didn't go well. What's the problem? Why didn't you do this? Those things are much more, it's much more common for managers to talk about those things. What's much less common is, thank you for the great job that you did. I really appreciate it. Or a post-it note on their desk. You really did a great job. So let people report on the progress. And look, if the progress is not good, if there's something wrong, the way to handle it is not to blow your cork and get angry and yell, but rather, I noticed that you're behind schedule. I noticed that you're over budget. What can I do to help you get back on schedule and on budget? Leadership is service. It's not being the dominant person. It's not being the alpha and trying to look down on people. It's service. And if we understand that, we become better leaders. The leaders that don't believe in service, the leaders that believe that it's just them, they are the iron rod and they're going to tell us what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and when to jump, they're not good leaders. They really need to work on the idea that it is service. Very important. Managing versus leading. So managing is organizing tasks, follow the vision. This is all management. Think execution, drive people's success, work in the present, endorse the culture, all important things. But this is management. Now, leadership is a little different. This is leading. You set the vision. What is the vision? What are we going to try to achieve? What does it look like? What does the culture look like? Think of different ideas. There may be a better way to do things than we do right now. Maybe I'll give you an example. In Excel, you might use V lookups for certain things. They're called V lookups because they're vertical lookups, and they might be the right a formula for certain situations. But then there's index functions that do similar things, or an X lookup, which is a little bit different. So we may change the way we do things. We may look at a way that we've been doing things for the last 10 years and say, you know what, that's been okay and it's served us well, but maybe there's another way to do it. So leading is thinking of new ideas, inspiring people. How do you get people to want to do what you want them to do? How do you inspire them? Do you make them feel like they're part of a team? Do you make them feel like they matter? Do you make them feel like their opinions are taken to heart? Whether not saying that you have to follow every opinion that everybody has, but are they listened to? People who sit in their car and dread walking into the building are the ones that are giving you 3 hours or less a day and not giving you a full day of work. You have to inspire them to want to be better. They have to have achievable goals. Again, don't give them a 5 levels. We want you to aspire to these 5 levels, but oh, you can't get to level 5. It's impossible. Well, that's not inspiring. That's deflating. So inspire people. What's coming in the future? Look to the future. That's leading. Success now is great. I have a 6-figure business. I'm happy with that. That's great. But that doesn't mean that I want to stop here. If I can get it up to $250,000 a year, I want to do it. I'm looking to the future to build it to that level. Could I stop now and say, well, it's 6 figures, it's good enough? Yeah, I could, but I want to lead this company forward. Now, again, I'm alone, so I'm a little bit of a different situation. But if I had people working under me, the more money I would make as a company would lead to their success, their future success. So if I paid them a certain amount of money a year, if my business grows, I would be able to pay them a little bit more a year. So look to the future to grow. And of course, that would inspire people too, right? To make more money. Shape the culture. What kind of culture do you want? Do you want people to be happy? Do you want people to feel like it's an open place where they could express their feelings and their ideas? This is not kumbaya. This is not Pollyanna. This stuff matters. If you want a company that's successful, have a culture where they feel like they are wanted. Uh, there are companies that I train at. They are amazing at this, and that's why they train their people. They train their people because they want them to be a part of a culture, and they're excited to give them more knowledge and make them more well-rounded employees, not just at the office, but also outside. So if you're going to be a manager, you have to have interpersonal skills. You can't be the person that wants to sit in a corner and just do the work. That's okay if that's you. If you're a person who doesn't want to be a manager and you prefer to be alone and be introverted, that's okay. But then you can't be a manager because that's not one of the traits of a manager. The traits of a manager are to be interpersonal. How you talk to people, how you treat people, how you deal with them on a day-to-day basis. How do you communicate with them? I've already talked about it, but the idea of making sure that they're heard, making sure that they hear you, making sure you're clear, making sure that you're not the person where they see you walking down the hallway that they're diving into their office because they're afraid of what you're going to say if you're going to be negative all the time. They're managers that people fear, where they see the manager coming and they duck down into another office, or they run into the bathroom or whatever because they don't want that uncomfortable communication. If you can't do that, you can't be a manager. You have to know how to communicate with people. You got to know how to motivate them. And look, sometimes people are not you're not able to motivate them, and then you have to have a different discussion with those folks. But you got to be able to try to motivate people. What will motivate them? Most times, people are motivated more by time off than they are by money. If you offered people and say, "Look, you did a great job on this project. I want to give you an extra day off. Paid PTO day. All right, an 8-hour PTO. People love that. It could be food. Maybe every other Friday you bring in tacos and toppings, and you have a make your own tacos uh, lunch for your for the folks working with you, whatever it might be. But that's what a manager does. A manager motivates people to want to do better, to want to make us a better company. Organization, it's important, and we there's a lot of different organization that we're talking about here. Organization of your files, right? I mean, some people save everything to their desktop. Every file that they create, Word document, Excel file, they save it right to their desktop. Some people keep all of their emails in their inbox, and their inbox is 4,000 emails long. That's not organization. It's hard to find things when they're all over the place, right? Uh, or if it's paper, if you just have a filing cabinet and you throw every document into the filing cabinet and you don't put them in folders and organize them, how in the world do you find them later, right? So organization is a huge trait that a manager needs to have. Delegation. Know when to delegate. Don't delegate everything, but at the same time, don't do it all yourself. Some people have the feeling of, well, if it's not done myself, it's not going to be done right. You got to have faith in the people you hired or the people that your company hired. And you got to uh, be willing to say that they can do the job and I'm going to delegate it to them. If you have an administrative assistant, you should not be entering in spreadsheet data, typing it in. That's for the administrative assistant to do. That's why you hired that person. You want to delegate that. At the same time, if you're in a position where mutual funds need to be paid by 8 o'clock tonight, and you know that you're running out of time, well, then you got to roll up your sleeves and do the work too. You don't want to delegate everything there. You want to jump in and do the work. So it's important to know that. Forward planning. Again, mentioned this earlier, but what's coming in the future? Planning for what's coming up. We're doing well now, but how can we do better later on? You want to be happy with what you've done. You want to celebrate what you've done and your success. When I became a six-figure business, I celebrated that. I was thrilled about that. I didn't know if that would ever happen. And now I'm saying, well, okay, we're at six figures, but how do we get to $250,000? What do we have to do? What do I have to do? What do I have to get better at to get there? Strategic thinking. So what strategies are you going to use? How do you sell? I'm not a great salesperson. I've been very candid about that. That's one of my weaknesses. I'm not really good at selling, but you know, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to talk to people and have them teach me how to be a better salesperson, to sell all the things that I have to offer. And being confident that what you have to offer is valuable. I've had companies sometimes say to me, uh, can we have you come in and train a class? And then if we like you, we'll hire you. And the answer is no. There's value to what I'm giving you. I'm not going to give it to you for free. I need to be paid for it. Now, after I have the class and you pay for it, if you, my motivation is that I'm going to do a good enough job that you're going to hire me again. That's my motivation. So it's not that they're paying for something and I'm going to give them a lackluster effort because I know I'm getting paid. I want to get paid again. So we have to be strategic in our thinking. Okay? Managers are problem solvers. We have issues. How do we fix the issues? We got to try something, right? We don't want to just sit there and say, well, we got a problem and just leave it at that. So problem solving is a trait of a manager. Commercial awareness and being aware of what we look like, our image. Mentoring people. Mentoring people is showing them the way. It's service. Again, service. I know I keep saying that word, but it's so important. We're mentoring means you're showing them how to do it, the way to do it, the steps, and letting them find their own little shortcuts too. When I mentor people, I tell them, look, I can give you a couple of ways to do this, and I want you to decide the best way for you. Now, there's other things where there's only one way to do it, and that's the way it is. But sometimes, like for instance, in the computers, You could cut and paste several different ways. Right click cut, right click paste, control X cut, control V paste. You use the ribbon, right? So when you mentor people, that's what a manager does. That's a person who is going to walk you through the process. Right. So leaders, communication, we talked about that. That's huge. Being able to communicate with people, motivate them, delegate when you need to, be positive. Yeah, positivity is gigantic. I mean, if you're always negative, you're always like, oh, woe is me, or why are we always having this problem or that problem? You don't want to project negativity. You want to project positivity. That keeps other people positive besides yourself. Trustworthiness. Do I follow through on what I tell people I'm going to do? That's huge. If you want to be a leader, you have to be trustworthy. When people see that you're not trustworthy, your leadership is going to fall through. Leverage strengths. Again, uh, let's say I'm having a house built, and I have one carpenter who's fantastic at building a deck on the back of the house. And I have another carpenter who's phenomenal at putting in cabinets. Well, then put that person who's great at cabinets on the job of hanging the cabinets, and put the person who's great at putting up the deck on the back of the house, that carpenter on that job, right? Leverage their strengths. Some people may have the same job title or skill set, but are better at different aspects of that skill. So leverage the strengths of the people that you have working underneath you. Creativity. You want people to uh, be able to be creative. You want them to show you how they can be different and maybe find better ways of doing things. Leaders promote creativity. They promote feedback. How do you feel about things? You work for us. How's it going? It doesn't have to be only at a 6-month review. A lot of times, leaders and managers will ask for feedback, but they only do it every 6 months or every year. Why not do it every week? Why not? And it doesn't have to be formal. Why not walk up to their cube and say, "Hey, how things going? Can you give me some feedback? How do you feel about this project? How do you feel personally about the project, not just in business?" You have a lot of responsibilities as a leader, and you have to know what responsibilities you need to take on and what responsibilities you want others to have. Commitment is huge. Commitment to the company that you work for, commitment to your team, commitment to the project itself. That's a trait of a leader. Flexibility. Sometimes things don't go right. An example could be, again, you're building a house and you wanted to wallpaper the kitchen, but you now have no time to do that. You have excess paint for when you painted the upstairs, so now you're going to paint the kitchen. Well, it's still going to look nice. You're flexible. You said, well, we have paint already, so why pay for wallpaper? And it's faster to paint than put up the wallpaper anyway. So we're going to be flexible. Reducing scope in a project. You may have tasks that you want to do, and then you say, well, you know what? In the interest of time, I'm not sure that these would work. So having the flexibility to reduce those tasks, reducing scope. There's a saying that a friend of mine, Rolf Benershka, says a lot, and he says, don't let uh, great be the enemy of good enough. Sometimes things are good enough. You don't have to uh, be so rigid and say, well, it's got to be perfect, because perfect sometimes won't happen. So being flexible enough to say, hey, this is good enough. And releasing potential, having people get to um, hit their potential, allowing people to get to the where they need to go for you to be successful in your business. So that's just a short, like I said, this is a 4-hour course where we do some hands-on work and group work together. So it's a very short um, synopsis of what that is. But I hope that that was something that will be helpful for you. Let me just stop sharing the screen here. Something to think about. And if you're interested in these types of courses, I do these um, really not this one particular course, but I do these types of courses every week, usually 4 or 5 days a week. And you can contact me at Justin at justforyoutc.com, all spelled out, JustForYoutTC.com. The website is www.justforyoutc.com. And my cell number is 610-324-5545. If you're looking for any classes at all, computer classes, any soft skills classes like time management, teams, leadership, um, empowerment, any of those, I offer those as well. I want to thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for watching this Talking Heads episode. Looking forward to seeing you back here real soon. And just keep your eyes out for all the great shows that we have here on USA Global TV and Radio. Take care, everybody.